Hey everyone, Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hope everyone's doing well and you're enjoying the hobby. We got the Pocket Change Market Report, the midweek edition on September 10th, 2025. Hopefully everyone's doing well. And today we're going to take a look at about 20 coins that sold here on eBay within the last day. These are all quite relevant. We're talking about some really nice pieces that folks are finding out there in circulation, or they're going through dealer stock and inventory at those shows and at the shops. That's another great way to find inventory to resell on eBay. As you guys know, we talk predominantly about U.S. mint die varieties and mint errors. So we cover both bases here. These are coins that customarily gets passed up by a lot of people, and it leaves it really up to the purist collectors like you and I to really dig down deep and find these varieties, find these errors, and enhance our collection or use them as catalysts to make more money at the end. I know a lot of people that do this as kind of like a part-time side hustle to complement their daily 9 to 5, and it works beautifully. We are coming into the fall months here, so that's going to be even more important as we're looking to cobble up some money for the holidays. As you know, nothing is really cheap out there anymore, so doing something like this will go a long way in the assistance for the holidays. So we're going to take a look at these pieces here momentarily. Quick little shout out to channel sponsor whatnot, but most importantly, we have a show coming up here in less than about an hour. I would say after this video hits, 1 hour from now at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern, we will be doing another show here on Wednesday night. It's Wifey's World, and we're all living in it. She's going to be the one hosting this evening. A great show, lots of U.S. type coins, some beauties. You are not going to want to miss this. If you want to take part and you haven't joined up yet, we have the QR code right on screen. You could certainly use that to sign up. Or we also have the clickable links down below in the description box, and we'll also pin it into the comment section of this video. So that way you guys can sign up. Grab $15 off your very first item on me that you purchase. It's going to be impactful. It's going to make a pretty big difference as you're looking to find something affordable and something really awesome that you could add to your collection. We hope to see you here real soon tonight. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in. And we're going to try and speed this one along. All right, we got 20 coins to talk about. The first one is this Lincoln Memorial cent. Now, as we talk about in every video, okay, the photos really make the listings. Some are pretty good, some not so much. This one right here is what I consider to be an average set of images. Not the best, considering that there's parts of it cut off, a little bit out of focus, and that's okay. Sometimes that happens. On this particular coin, it's okay because it's a just insanely large cut die break that you see there on the obverse of the coin, that raised billowed edge that goes all the way around the rim, literally covering the date, is actually raised in relief on the coin. And that's due to just these coins being struck with dies that were in a very terminal state. Just like automobiles, different parts of the mint presses undergo a lot of wear and tear, and so does those dies. The dies take the brunt of the work doing all of the minting of these coins, and they crack, pieces fall out all the time. When a piece falls out, it creates an empty cavity, so that way during the strike and all that pressure that is placed onto the coin during the strike, that empty cavity will fill up with some of that metal flow, and that's how you receive and end up with a cut die break like you see here. This is actually a pretty big one. It ended up selling, by the way, for $148.49 with a quartet of bids on there. So 4 bids altogether is all it took to really raise the roof on this piece here. From my perspective, this one looks like a post 1982 copper plated zinc composition coin. But all in all, these things are highly liquid in today's market. You're not going to have any sort of trouble selling these because they do really well. And the prices have been wildly consistent. And the prices, I would say, over time will just continue to go up as these are one of the most popularly collected mint errors today. We do have a couple of what we call woodies, or its proper terminology, improper alloy mixes. Okay, so we have this 1940S here. This is actually one of the more common dates where you could find this anomaly. When you look at the surfaces of this coin here, you're going to see some striations. This all look like wood graining, off of a 2x4 or whatever. And that's the look that people are gunning for. So how improper alloy mixes work is that they're in the prep stage of just trying to do the composition mix. They add a little bit of tin or zinc, and sometimes it just doesn't mix too well in there, which will cause the effect that you see on this particular coin. Now through regular oxidation, it's going to develop a dark and tan kind of contrasting effect on the coins. Generally, you'll find these single-sided, but this particular one is double-sided, which makes it a little bit more appealing to collectors. These things have gained so much ground here in the last few years. It used to be that these things, you couldn't even peddle them for $1, and now they're selling for a lot more, as there are people looking to find new and interesting things that they could collect into, and all the while trying to keep budget friendly in mind, and that's where these things are. Now, they're not wildly expensive, but this one right here ended up selling for $15.95, which is a pretty good price for a common date woody. And we also have this 1929 here that did sell in tandem. There were actually a number of woodies that sold like all together. There was probably about 10 of them, but we just picked a couple of them for this show here. So this one right here, you can see it on both sides. Much more attractive on the obverse where the date is. You can even see a little bit of lamination on there. And the reverse is, it's a woody, but it's also got some corrosion and various other things on there. This particular piece sold for $12.95. Not too bad. Considering it's a wheat cent, you either own it for a penny or you own it for 4 or 5 cents. Let's say if you bought a bulk lot of wheat cents to go through, it probably set you back 4 or 5 cents a piece. So, in reality, that's kind of like what the cost is on something like this. $12.95. Take that money and run. Here's a 1966 Lincoln Memorial cent. We did bring up the word lamination, a few moments ago. This one is a delamination. The lamination had peeled off and then just disappeared, leaving what you see here. And this is all due in part to the impurities in the alloy mix. Kind of similar to woodies, sort of, but not, they're not the same thing. Terminology-wise, they're two completely different mint errors. So laminations, we get to a certain point, and we just don't see nearly as many of these. This is actually a pretty good date. There's been more people wanting to collect into these. They've been the redheaded stepchild of the U.S. Mint error, community. Because they existed in large numbers, and now people are beginning to appreciate them a little bit more, and in turn paying more into them. This one right here is quite wild and very dramatic, and because of that, it's sold for $59.50. Kind of a crazy world we live in where laminations are selling for this kind of money. Again, like woodies, these things were selling for like a couple bucks or two, sometimes $5-10, depending on how dramatic they are. But very rarely do we see $60 on a sale, but we're seeing more of those these days as folks are collecting deeper and further into lamination errors. This is a neat one here. Nice variety, to be sure. This one used to be called the reverse of 89 or something like that, the wide AM, it had a couple different names, over the years. 1988 Lincoln Memorial Cent. You could only find these on 1988s, by the way, either the Philadelphia or Denver. The Philly are the more rarer coins to look for this. Now they call them the flared G variety. The FS 901 is what it is. The reason why they don't use wide AM anymore is because all 1988s have wide AM reverses. Some people still claim to use that as the attribution for this coin, and it's simply just wrong because all the coins are wide AMs. But the Flare G has that drop-down line, that gusset that goes beyond the curl of the bottom of the G there, which is not the normal thing to find on these coins. Usually it'll have a different type style to the G, and it's going to be a little bit more shallow where it's not nearly as strong as this one. So this one here ended up selling for $100.80. Again, another coin on the move. This one is not like top tier shape, but we've seen mid-state red, either graded or raw examples, sell for like $250 to $500 here recently. So the Philadelphia ones certainly are jumping up to expectations of the market. This one right here, I threw this one in here because it's just a neat date. We don't find 77D off-center struck Lincolns that much in the market. So we'll pop this one up on here. This one is about 60% struck off-center. And judging from the overall oxidation color, the brownness of the coin, this thing looks like it's actually circulated. And that is wild to me. Only because a coin this dramatic and this funky will stop anybody in their tracks. It doesn't matter if you're a collector or not. But anyways, this one sold for $40 here in the last day. Pretty nice sale there. We did have a little bit of currency. I think maybe one or two pieces here. And this one is the 1977 $5 bill. Now, the front of the note looks like a regular, older style $5 bill. All right, but when we flip this thing over, it's anything but. We have a little bit of a misalignment on the print. Just some poor registration from front to back. And there was something going on with this particular sheet in the stack when the back print was applied to it, which is usually the first print on these notes. So this one right here sold for $71 with 24 bids. So quite a nice sale there on this one. And again, if you're going to be looking through paper money, like bundles or straps, make sure you're looking at both sides of the note, because you could find all sorts of different weird, neat stuff in there. And, could be worth it to you. You might line your pocket with some cash. You'll look at every single bill the same way. Here's a group here. This is 2 rolls worth, 100. All right, this is how many of these are being found. And not just 100, but people are finding these in droves. Here, 2 years later, these are 2023 Lincoln cents. These are all Philadelphia struck coins, and these all have the extra V marking right next to VDB initials at the truncation of Lincoln's bust there. Again, this has been kind of knighted as some sort of variety, and because of that, all the big grading companies, PCGS included, are grading these with extra V right on the slab label. So, these things have kind of fallen off a little bit price-wise, and now we're seeing folks selling these in groups and lots. This is 100 coins, by the way, that's sold in total with shipping for $904.80. That puts a cost basis of right around $9 per coin. These things used to go for about $20-$30, as recently as a year ago. But we've seen how much these things have fallen off. And the minted quantity on these, I have a feeling, is quite stout. They probably produce couple hundreds of thousands of these, and we're just not thinking about it, because there was also another sale, and I did not add that to the list here today, of 50, a count of 50 of the Extra V 2023s that sold precisely half of what this one sold for, $450 before shipping. So yeah, people are definitely on board with the pricing tiering on these. $8 to $10 a piece is what you're expecting. If you're going to expect to buy this to flip them individually, you're not going to make a whole lot of money, if anything. I think folks are buying these either just to sit on or to grade. Because I know coins that grade like Mid-State 65 and higher still produce pretty good results on the secondary market. This is a cool one. Cool one in the sense that this one had been around the block a few times. It's circulated. 1972 doubled die obverse FS101 variety. Coins and cards, again, with the bangers. This one singular seller. Personally responsible for some high-end varieties and type coins and key dates and things like that. They do a really good job presenting some of these higher-end coins to the marketplace. And, they don't have to be graded. And coins and cards don't really sell too many graded coins. But this one right here, the doubling is unmistakable. You can see it on In God We Trust, Liberty, the date. This is a top-tier variety that you could still find and change today with some dedicated searching. $495 was the sale on this one. 36 bits. So a lot of people were jumping at the chance to own this one about as affordably as they can. $400 to $500 is kind of like the floor on a lot of these. I haven't seen too many trashed examples, like really, really, really damaged examples that have sold recently. So it's kept the price very, very nice and level on the lower end ones. Cool one here, man. Wow. 75D. This one was struck through a cloth of some sort on the obverse. So on the on that particular die, there was something there. It's either a cloth that they use to rub some of that oxide grease onto the moving parts of the machinery, or it could have been like a piece of tape. Whatever tape that has fibers in it. Duct tape is one of those. I don't know if the Mint uses that for any application, but I'm probably more along the crowd of just struck through like a piece of rag or, whatever. But this is really cool. Anytime you could see the cross-hatching of the fiber that, or the cloth rather, that was hindering the full strike process of this coin, man, it's really neat. I love this thing. $104.35. That's about kind of like what I would expect one of these to sell for. If that strike through is larger, that price tag just keeps going up. Here's a nice little 3-pack here of 1967 Great Britain pennies. Now, all on their own, these things are not worth a ton of money. $1 or $2 a piece. And these ones are not like primo condition. They're not like brilliant mid-state red examples. But when we look at these, and I did not know that this particular error existed on these. This is a lot of 3 with the Cud die breaks on them. Right there on the TH of Elizabeth, right on the 3 o'clock position, if you're looking at these like a clock dial. This thing is the bomb. And I had no idea, again, that this Cud die break existed on this coin. And not to mention that you have some sort of like retained Cud all the way on the other side where it says REG of Regina there. Yeah, these coins are insane. I wish I would have seen them. I would have bought these. So the trio here sold for $195. That's all good right there. That's a pretty good sale. 1937 D Buffalo Nickel, very common day Buffalo Nickel. You'd be hard pressed to find one of these in piss poor shape. A lot of them are going to be VFXF out there. And of course, if you're looking for the 3-legged buffalo, a lot of people would dismiss all the other coins as it is. But there's some pretty nice RPMs that can be found out of this particular date. And not only that, 36 S&D as well. So this one here, Has the secondary Denver mint mark that's punched east of the primary. You can actually see that extra outer curl of the D just east of the primary mint mark here. I didn't find out what RPM this one is. I think it's either 3 or 4 the last time I remembered. But this was actually a pretty good sale. $132.50 on this one here. And the coin overall is like an XF45. It's a beautiful condition. Very nice, you know. It is a 37D. So there is that as well. 1983p Washington quarter. Yeah, kind of a tough date here. I haven't seen one of these in a minute. It's got a pretty nice cut die break on the reverse, covering the words America, of and America on the reverse there, right at the top right corner, like 2 o'clock, somewhere around there. So yeah, I forgot this one was even existing. It has a couple scratches on the obverse, which is a killer, you know, for you know, a collector that wants one that's wholesome and undamaged. But sometimes you kind of have to take what you could get. But hey, it's at a discount. This one sold for $27. So I'm sure one without all the scratches would probably end up doing near double that in today's market. 1990p Jefferson nickel, big, huge broad strike here. So the collar was not present during the strike. Okay, the collar is like a donut ring, a metal ring that holds the coin in place during the actual striking process. And when it's not there, guess what? It's going to allow free flow of that metal to go even larger than the overall diameter of a correct Jefferson nickel. So this one right here ended up selling for $39, and it looks like it's as big as a quarter. That's usually how big they get for broad strikes. This one is really nice. One of our featured coins of the day, 1969D. And I'm going to say that you can find this particular mint error anomaly on a few different dates, okay, going into the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. This one was struck with a split die. Yeah, the die had a crack, you know, from rim to rim right on there, and it was still striking up coins, even back in 1969. So this beast right here is actually in fabulous shape too. They're not particularly cheap. I haven't found a really good cheap Roosevelt dime struck with split dies in a while. They all seem to sell for $100 or more. It's like easy money, and a lot of people, as you would probably imagine, would overlook these. So this one right here sold for $99. All right, call it what it is. It's a C note, $100 bill. After taxes. We also have this Lincoln Memorial set that was struck through a earlier state capped die. You'll even have a little bit of brockage still on there as well. 1960 something is what the date is. The seller mentioned it could be as 1968. It could be. Kind of hard to say because it's not late state enough to find out. But much like cut die breaks, these things sell great in today's market if you find one. I've found a few of them over the years. This one here sold for $27 with 4 bits. Canadian coins getting a little love too. We had the British pennies just a few moments ago. 1963 Canadian cent with an indent there on the reverse. And this was actually a byproduct of 2 planchets or a coin that was already struck and in blank overlapping each other and then struck. All right, so there is somewhere out there maybe another coin that fits this one like a key. And, you know, like I said before, Canadian errors are collected by a very dedicated bunch of people, and there's not a whole lot of great wild mint errors to be found. This one here is selling for $50.21. Another nice cut, probably the bargain of the day, 1986 Lincoln Memorial with a large cut right above Lincoln's head there. Pretty easy to see. They call this also the godless coin because the cut is covering up the word God and we and the T in trust. This one here, someone scooped this one up, had it up as a buy it now. It disappeared faster than you can blink. $29.95 is roughly about maybe $15-20 cheaper than what these normally go for. 2004D Wisconsin statehood quarter. Of course, we gotta look for them, the high and low leaf variants. And this one has the low leaf. And it's actually in pretty nice shape. In spite of these pictures being a little bit dark, you can tell it has some luster as well. $106, ladies and gents, with 4 bids for this one here. And the final coin for this pocket change market report, 1937 Buffalo nickel. Do you see what's going on here? Look at the obverse. The big old crazy depression that goes through most of the Indian's face and cheeks and into the date area. That's a major strike through. Could be a bunch of grease and all sorts of dirt and debris and all sorts of other great stuff that was on that die before it struck this one. We don't normally see strike throughs this big on Buffalo nickels, so this one was more desirable, to the crowd, and because of that, it sold for $99.60. Whereas a similar strike through on maybe a Washington quarter probably would sell for about a third that, or even less. So there is definitely something to be said about big major mint errors on obsolete coins like this. They're just going to command a lot of eyeballs in the market. Alright, see that? It just kept it pretty reasonable today. Information in this video is for educational use only, not financial advice. As always, please collect and or grade your coins responsibly. That's going to go ahead and wrap her up for today. We're going to prep for the Whatnot show. My wife is going to be the hostess with the mostest for tonight's show. Hope to see you guys there. Again, I am Sean with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we shall see you guys here real soon. Hope to see you tonight. But nonetheless, we will see you sometime here in the near future. You guys take care, keep on collecting, and have a good night.